Welcome to Lawyer Business Advantage. This podcast is dedicated to helping attorneys earn more money, get better clients, and spend more time with family. I'm your host, Alay and founder of Law Firm Success Group. Smart business guidance for small law firms begins in 3, 2, 1. And it's my pleasure to welcome Arvind Sujeeth, founder and CEO of Billables.ai. Arvind, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, LA. It's great to be
It
here.
is great to have you on the show. I finally have a guest who's going after the AI stuff. But unlike a lot of people that are just tacking AI onto the end of whatever it is that they're doing, you actually have gotten into it with machine learning, like you're the real deal. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the AI space and machine learning.
Yeah, so I've been in the AI space for a long time now. I actually started in grad school. I came out to the Bay Area 2008, start grad school at Stanford. I was not sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew machine learning was going to be a big part of it. So I ended up working kind of at a mix between machine learning and computer systems, and I worked on all kinds of really interesting applications, things like autonomous indoor helicopters, how you can fly these little machines like on their own in indoor spaces, all the way to programming languages and how we take some of the state-of-the-art machine learning at the time and run them at large scale on large numbers of computers. And so that's kind of was my introduction to the space. After Stanford, I actually started a company, a fintech company that was using machine learning and AI to do credit scoring in emerging markets. So our goal at that time was, hey, there's a huge problem here where lots and lots of people in the world don't have access to financial credit, and machine learning is the kind of technology that, if used on the right kinds of data, could solve this problem, which is really a we don't know anything about these people kind of problem. So I spent 4 or 5 years building that company using AI to solve like really concrete and I think really like important problems. And then after that, I worked at a company called Salmonova Systems, which as a VP of engineering, building not only AI software, but AI hardware and trying to build these full stack platforms. And kind of in the middle of that, ChatGPT came out and this generative AI wave started. And it's like, couldn't be in a better place, right? Just kind of lucked
Yeah,
into it, I think, to
absolutely.
be in the right place.
So you were doing some really exciting stuff. Why on earth would you jump into billables for law firms?
Hey, who says that billable can't be exciting? It takes some
Well,
effort, but
I love billables because not only is it how law firms make money, but people like you and I can oftentimes make a huge difference by helping attorneys find money that they're losing when they're billing for their time. And clients love it when all we do is just fill in those holes, show them how to find that money, and boom, revenue goes up, cash flow goes up like right away.
that's exactly right. It's one of the most impactful problems I think I've worked on just because of how painful it is for individual attorneys and how much is being left on the table, right? People are working 14-hour days, sometimes more than that, and they're billing 6 hours or 4 hours, and there's just this insane amount of loss that goes into it. And so the way that I got into it was through my wife, right? So she is a lawyer, a law firm here in San Francisco, partner here. And as I was sort of thinking about the next steps in my own journey, I was super excited about AI applications and the possibility to transform how people work and the ways we can help people be more productive and efficient. And, as I was thinking about different things, she was like, you know what, you should really solve billing because for her, it was the worst part of her job, right? She described it as like the thing she looks forward to the least, the most painful piece, and just, something that really detracted from a job that she otherwise really enjoyed. And after that, I met my co-founder, or I connected with my co-founder. We went off and we talked to lots of different attorneys, and we kept hearing the same thing. People would describe it as the bane of their existence, just this awful experience that was making their quality of life and their practice of law, far less enjoyable than it could be. And that's kind of how it all started.
So I want to dig into that. What specifically were they saying? Because in the billable process in a firm, as you know, there's a lot of different steps to it, and then there is the blowback from clients when they get their bill. What were the different elements of the billing process that they found were the most draining for them?
I think people really dislike the tracking of it, like first and foremost, right? The fact that you're constantly having to record every little thing that you do. People described it to us as kind of having to like relive their day in this like very painful way, especially if you're like at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out like what was I working on at like, 9:55 and for how long? And it gets worse, right? For some people that like weren't able to do it contemporaneously, if you're trying to do it at the end of the week or God forbid at the end of the month, it just gets harder and harder, right? And so that aspect of having to do this really mundane, mechanical, very fine-grained tracking at all times of the day, I think was probably the most painful thing for folks. And then there's just always this aspect of just the sheer amount of time and effort that you have to put into it, right? To actually write good, records that you can send to a client that are accurate, that capture, in a the right level of detail what you did in a way that the clients understand it and are willing to pay for it. And everyone knows they have to do it because they need to collect their bills, but
Right.
so it's table stakes, but it really, it's time that you could have been spending doing actual legal work, for your clients instead.
Right. Not to mention, like you said, it's not pleasant. Um, and so how does AI solve this? I mean, I can't even get AI to write a decent email for me. How is it going to come in and like, figure out how much time I'm spending on a case and, just tell us a little bit more about how you help solve that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the AI email will get better and better, but really, I think we're at this inflection point with the technology today where it's really good at certain kinds of tasks that um, even include things that like humans, might reason about. AI is starting to get to a place where it can approximate some of that, but there's still a long way to go, right? There's still plenty of things that AI, it's either the problem is too complex or the data is too sophisticated or the kind of inferences you need to make across different things. I think it'll get there, but it's not necessarily there today. But for us, when we look at this problem, it was kind of the perfect use case because it's one where, first of all, it's not something you can just like put a wrapper on ChatGPT and say like, hey, can you generate my bill for me? The real secret is like you need to have the right data, right? So we've actually gone through the effort of building deep integrations to lots of different tools. So we integrate directly with like Microsoft Office, with things like Outlook, Teams, Zoom, Adobe, Chrome, and Edge, all these different tools that people use every day. And from there, we get the actual data around what are they working on and when are they working on it. And what we do is we take that and we use a bunch of different AI models and techniques to then reason about that data to try to figure out, okay, not only from 9:54 to 9:57 you were working on this email, but what was that email about and how would you generate a billable entry for it? Which client or matter should you assign that to? What else was going on around then? And how can we kind of combine that context to maybe group things together or maybe realize that actually this wasn't relevant and not something that you would want to bill for? So that's kind of how we're leveraging AI. And the goal is really to get a first draft of your client bill, right? We want to kind of get as close to what you as an attorney would have written yourself. And that means learning your own habits, learning your own styles, your own preferences, but getting to something that looks like you can sit down and say, hey, like this is a really good starting point. Maybe you make a couple tweaks here and there, you approve the rest of it, and you get it out the door. And now
Got
it's
it.
not something that you're spending 10 hours on, but something you're spending like less than an hour on.
Yeah. So, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So this tool basically integrates into existing software that the attorney uses, and then it kind of monitors the activity in that software and tries to pre-populate a bill. So it'll be observing activity in your Outlook and your Microsoft Word, um, maybe your practice management system. I don't know if you're in that. But the things it won't be able to do, I'm guessing it won't be able to do like, phone calls that you happen to be doing or meetings that you happen to be doing. Or does it also get into your calendar and figure that stuff out too?
You can get that from the calendar, exactly. And what we've also seen, I think this is a largely COVID-driven shift in the way law firms operate, is that there's so many more of those meetings and those phone calls that are happening through online tools, right? There's a lot. I think if you compared like 5 years ago to today, you'd see a lot fewer lawyers that are having clients call their cell phone directly versus call in through a voice over IP line, like a Zoom phone or a Teams phone. And those kinds of phone calls we can capture, right? And because we integrate with those providers. Same thing with meetings, right? So many meetings are on Zoom, like this one, right? And all of those things, like this is going to show up in my dashboard later today.
That is super cool. I could really see a lot of that skepticism get blown away when that attorney sees that first bill that was generated and it's got their meetings with the client and their emails to counsel and something that we're drafting a Microsoft Word, and it's all just laid out there in a bill with draft descriptions, right, for each of the items.
That's exactly right, with a description of what that was about, also an explanation. So you can actually like kind of hover over that entry and you can see like a link to the emails that it was part of, or the documents that you were working on, or the meeting event and things like that.
Awesome. That sounds super cool. And I'm glad we're talking about this because when we chatted before, I actually didn't have that great of an idea about what it looks like. So this has really helped clarify it for me. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, which I think our attorney entrepreneurs that are listening would have for you. Um, Getting into all of this combined with being in the legal space, data privacy and security is just of paramount importance. So, without getting technical, because we don't have a technical audience, just tell us a little bit
Right.
about how secure this platform is.
Yeah. So we've, having been in technology and in engineering and in like highly technical startups for a long time, we really have built it for security and privacy from the ground up. Even before we started building anything, actually one of the first things my wife and I did, as we were talking about the idea, is pulled some ethics opinions from like the California State Bar and a few other places, consulted with some ethics counsels to try to understand like where are the guardrails here, and making sure that we wouldn't be, crossing any lines. And what we found is like there's an expectation or a duty of competence, right, for attorneys to evaluate the security of the software they're using, but really from a vendor perspective to produce highly secure software. And so we've done things from the ground up, like end-to-end encryption. We've made sure that the models that we run are dedicated, isolated instances. We're not training with shared data, so there's never any risk that like a data from one user or firm is going to like commingle or pollute, with any other users. We're following all of the best practices, and we're currently actually going through our like SOC 2 kind of compliance journey as a new company. And so we feel really confident that we're amongst the kind of best in class, when it comes to protecting your security and privacy. And one more thing I'll add is there are some time tracking tools out there that are more like desktop apps that sit on your computer and take screenshots.
Yeah.
And the amount of data that those things get, and the amount of kind of there's basically no filter, right? It's sort of getting everything that is on your desktop. And we don't do that. So what we do, because we integrate directly with those tools, is we collect the kind of metadata of the activity that's happening, but we personally don't store like the underlying emails or documents or anything like that. So we've tried to take a very kind of multi-pronged approach, like we try to minimize the amount of sensitive data that we have to begin with. And then for the pieces that we do have, like the billable records, making sure that we're always following state-of-the-art best practices in every dimension.
Awesome. And speaking of compliance and best practices, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Counsel CPAs. They do back office operations for law firms. So think bookkeeping, accounting, improving cash flow. Fantastic people, and they are one of the sponsors of our episode today here today. So you can find more out about them at counselcpas.com. So let's talk a little bit about implementation, because I mean, how do you install the software so it gets into, all the different platforms that a law firm has, and then all the different, all the attorneys and paralegals and legal secretaries?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we've put in a lot of thought and effort into how not only how do we make the onboarding as like seamless and simple and easy to use as possible, but how do we make the product from like a UI UX perspective as simple as it can possibly be? Because we know one of the hardest things is getting people to change their habits, in any way. So as far as, deploying the software, we've tried to make it a very simple process where most of it happens in a few clicks, right? So there's really two steps to our onboarding. One step is we integrate with practice management systems to pull in your what we call billing codes, but your list of clients and matters. So for example, with Clio, we integrate directly with Clio. So if you're a Clio customer, this is like a one-click thing. You approve our application and we sync automatically with Clio. And as you're updating clients and matters in Clio, we're going to keep that, synchronized in our system. And if you're not a Clio customer, we've got other ways for you to upload, that list of clients and matters and keep that up to date. The second piece is enabling, these different integrations we talked about, right, with Microsoft Office or with Teams or Zoom. And for the most part, those are also kind of one-click integrations. And usually what we find is to get, there's like a piece where if the firm has an IT person, they do kind of their thing that takes a couple of minutes. And if not, that's okay. It's whoever's, the managing partner or whoever has the administrator permissions. And then each user comes in, they kind of log in with their account, and usually they're up and running in a few minutes, just enabling those things on the website directly.
Got it. And my understanding, Arvind, is you're targeting small law firms, right?
We're targeting all law firms,
All law firms.
across the
Okay. No, that's
gambit.
good to know.
But a lot of our current customers are in more of the small to mid-size, right? I would say anywhere from 1 to 200 attorneys. Mainly, our goal as a new startup, a new company with a new product out there is to really just demonstrate value, right? We want to show people the two things that we're after. One, that we can help you spend a lot less time on billing as quick, so that this is not this big overhead or a thing that's taking up a lot of your time, and this pain point that we've constantly heard about. And two, that we're actually able to capture you more revenue and more billable time that you would otherwise have been missing, right? Because you've been tracking it manually and it's just really impossible to kind of capture everything that you do. And so our goal has been like, hey, let's get out there, move as fast as we can, get as many customers on the platform that can help validate for us and help teach us if there are things that aren't working right for their practice area or their type of firm. And so small to mid-size has been awesome for that. And a lot of our customers are there.
Got it. And what results have you seen?
Results have been better than as good as we could have hoped for, I'll say. The feedback from customers has been tremendous. We've validated certainly that everybody does really feel this pain point in a big way, but also that by using our software, firms and users are able to recover anywhere from 10 to 20% and sometimes even more billable time than they would by tracking manually. So it becomes kind of a no-brainer for folks, right? That the amount of money that they can recover or using Billables AI is really, really significant. And in terms of just the pain level, with billing, I don't know that we've got it down to a 1, which is kind of our goal, but I think if it was a 9 or 10 before, most people are probably sitting at a 5, right? There's still, you have to come in, you have to review the entries, you still have to approve them. So I think we made a big leap in that direction. And then there's more to do that we're excited about continuing to improve that and make the AI better and better.
Yeah, it's really interesting because at some point, it's great if the attorney knows that they have to go in and review all of the bills, and a lot of law firms have the pre-billing process. They're familiar with it. At some point, you start to trust the AI when it gets really, really good, and then maybe you take your eye off the ball. And so it's always really interesting for me. Is where is that? Where are you on the continuum, and what do you do about that middle ground? Somewhere between, yep, I know I've got to check everything because the AI is good, but not a substitute, and oh yeah, it's got it. I don't have to worry about it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a really good point. And I'll say what we've seen so far is one of the things we require is that each entry that gets exported does need to be approved, right? We do want a human to kind of, look at that and say that it's real. And I think maybe to your point earlier, I think there is still enough skepticism about AI that for most people, they do want to kind of double check it. But I'll also say that I think there's a huge opportunity using tools like this across a firm to enforce consistency and standards in a way that's very hard to get to, especially for more mid-sized and larger firms, right? As we're talking with a number of the AmLaw 100 firms, and this is a huge problem that they have, is that following the outside counsel guidelines, getting all of the individual attorneys to actually enter things the right way is very, very hard to do. And you end up catching it after the fact, and you have this long back and forth with clients. So having a way of cleaning this stuff up when the time gets entered by having an AI tool that's doing the heavy lifting, I think can actually go a really long way.
Really cool. I love what you're doing, and I can see that there's a strong trajectory there. So, what is it that excites you about Billables AI over the next 12 months or so?
Well, it's almost even hard to predict. I look at this journey. We incorporated about 12 months ago, right? We've been in this almost exactly 1 year, and so much has happened in that year, from raising our initial seed fundraising round to getting out there with design partners to now launching kind of more publicly and onboarding lots and lots of customers. So I'm just so excited to see, what the next year will bring. I think not if I zoom out a little bit, AI applications in general, I think this is having, this incredible moment where I think we're starting to see what do great AI applications look like? What do great application companies look like? And how do they solve a problem in a way that's more much more seamless and much better to use than just a chatbot, which has like kind of been the first wave. I think for us, we're going to expand, not only across legal, like starting to get into more of those big firms, Am Law 100 firms. We're going to continue to double down on our AI and machine learning technologies so that the amount of time that people have to spend, reviewing or correcting anything, we're going to keep trying to drive that down to zero. We're excited about not only potentially other industries too, right? There's lots of other folks other than lawyers that have, a timekeeping and a billable problem. I'm excited about some of the trends that we're seeing in billables, like even if for folks that aren't billing their time hourly, as things get to more and more flat fee, which may continue to happen. I think we can add a lot of value for them, helping them understand their costs and helping them understand, where their time is going, and how to manage their pricing and their margins in that world. And the last thing is, our ambitions are actually far greater than just time tracking and billing, right? We think it's like exactly the right problem to start with. We think it's a phenomenal use case that has a lot of concrete value and can really help a lot of people. But we also think that there's just so much more that could be done and help using AI to help automate the way that a firm runs. There's like all of these things that are kind of non-billable today, administrative overhead, sort of manual workflows. We just see a lot of opportunity, and I'm kind of leveraging the same data that we already have to automate more and more of that. So, our kind of motto, our mission is like, let lawyers lawyer, let accountants account, let creatives create, let Billables.ai handle all of that, all the other stuff, all the operational and administrative stuff.
I love that because once you're into all of those software applications, now you have all the data coming in, and what you do with it really is up to you. Just selfishly, we have, as a business coach, when I work with my clients, one of the things we often do is time tracking, and it's a highly manual process. And with something like Billables.ai, boom, it just gets done, and you can check and see how you're doing on your time at any given time. It's really cool stuff.
Thank you so much. I mean, I fundamentally believe like there are some things that humans should do and should continue to do, and there are some things that computers should be doing. And time tracking and billing just, is one of those things that humans don't like to do. They're not very good at it, and like computers can take this off their plate, right? And
Yeah.
should.
Yeah. Love this. So if people want to connect with you, Arvind, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can find us at Billables.ai. There's a forum there. You can always drop us a note, or you can reach me directly at Arvind@Billables.ai.
All right. Arvind, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much, Alay. It's great to be here. I really appreciate it.
Everyone, that is Arvind Sujeeth with Billables.ai. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Business Advantage podcast. One thing that would really help both us and other new potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in to listen. And I want to hear from you, so connect with me on LinkedIn and let me know what you think of this episode. And if you are a solo or an owner of a small law firm, and you're looking to earn more money, attract better clients, or reduce your stress, we would love to talk with you to see how we can help. Request your free law firm assessment by visiting lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. Again, that URL is lawfirmsuccessgroup.com. We look forward to talking with you soon. Thank you for listening. My name is Alay Yajnik. Until next time, remember, you can seize freedom. You can embrace happiness. You can build your perfect practice.